Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tunji Fussell. I'm the Associate Director of Diversity and Equity Programs, and so glad that you could join us today as we close out Diversity Month with a conversation on diversity. So, Diversity Month is used to celebrate and recognize diversity in all of its forms. However, we celebrate and showcase our diversity not just in April, but throughout the academic year through cultural, educational, and social programming. And that helps to promote dialogue and awareness. So, today we want to briefly talk a little bit more about diversity and how we support and engage our diverse community. So, you're going to be hearing from Anthony Brown, Chief Diversity Officer, Professor Prudence Cumberbatch, Chair of Africana Studies, Professor David Brodsky, Chair of Judaic Studies, Professor María Pérez González, Chair of Puerto Rican and Latino Studies, and Professor of Sociology, Diana Pan. So thank you all again for taking time out of your day to participate in this diversity conversation, albeit brief. And I want to start by directing this question to everyone. Would you share one or two things that your department has done within this academic year to showcase multicultural topics? And Anthony Brown, would you like to begin?
Sure. Thank you, Tunji.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always excited to talk about diversity, particularly as it relates to Brooklyn College, because we have a history of diversity, and it's indeed a very rich history. In terms of things that our office, that we've done this year, one of the things, Black History Month, we started off the early portion of the year with that. It was a great celebration. We celebrated folks of African descent, Black folks. The president showed up, and indeed, although it celebrated the Black experience, it was quite a diverse group of people that celebrated. Another thing that we did under our We Stand Against Hate program, it's an initiative that was started by President Anderson. We co-sponsored a program with the Modern Languages Department. It dealt with Jewish refugees in Shanghai, so we were quite proud of that. I could go on and on, but Tunji only allowed me to say two things.
Okay, thank you so much. Professor Cumberbatch, would you like to share now?
So I think through our curriculum and our programming, our department represents diversity every day, every month. So I think that, but in terms of specific events, Professor Byam, who heads up programming in our department, we sort of came together on the idea of creating a lecture series called Voices for Change. And we have used that to showcase the work of our adjuncts. And we branched out this year to focus or to highlight the work of other faculty of color, specifically Black faculty on campus. And so we basically bring in other faculty to lecture on their area of interest. We bring them into other classrooms.
Yes, in terms of curriculum, in terms of our faculty, in terms of the events that we do, right? Puerto Rican and Latino Studies, we call ourselves Pearls. Brooklyn College is the treasure box, and we are the pearls. Everything that we do pretty much embodies diversity as well. Our Latinos, Latinx peoples come from at least about 26 different Latin American countries. We speak predominantly Spanish, but there are many other indigenous languages as well. And we are multiracial. And so we have the white European, the Black African, and the indigenous peoples. So we're a mixture of that. So all of that tied together is what we represent and what we do and what we study. So we have the Possible Dream Latino Arts, Communities, and Leadership Encuentro that we do on a yearly basis. And that features academic panels, student panels, culture and music recitals. We culminate that with a Don Quixote leadership dinner. And we work closely with our Latino student organizations that help us, Latino faculty and staff organization on campus, and our great main sponsor is the Office of Diversity and Equity Programs. So we do this every year, and it's been a lot of fun. We have a Pearls faculty speaker series organized by Dr. Rinaldo Ortiz Minaya. So we started with ourselves and where our journeys took us so that our students can relate to seeing themselves where we are now, perhaps, or engaged in research in the future. And then he broadened it to include other Latinx scholars from across the country. So it's been a very wonderful vehicle. And I think that's it for now. We'll leave it.
Professor Brodsky, do you want to go next?
Sure. Well, similarly to Pearls and Africana Studies, the backbone of our department is our courses that we teach. And in terms of diversity, I mean, our general education courses, pathways courses that we teach, particularly our Jewish diaspora course, really highlights how Jews for thousands of years now, literally thousands of years, have migrated across the entire world, nearly, I think, every country in the world today, and how they both maintain their heritage and also very much became an integral part of the cultures and the societies of those places that they moved to. And so when you think of, Persian music, that was mostly performed by Persian Jews, right? When you think of Jewish food, that's often largely the foods of the places in which they migrated to, right? So it was a very symbiotic relationship of both contributing and borrowing and sharing. And so similarly with classical Jewish texts, as we teach, that's our other general education course where we teach the classical Jewish texts over thousands of years. It's again a very symbiotic relationship of where you watch these as both Jews contribute to the literatures of the places that they move to, and as also they're borrowing and learning from the places and the peoples that they're moving to. In terms of our programming, for years now, we've been, contributing largely to We Stand Against Hate and these different programs, and showcasing, the Jewish community of Mexico City and some of the heritage there, or we've been showcasing, classical issues of, let's say the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and looking at, bringing to bear more information on what's going on there and the ways in which Jews and Palestinians are working together, and also the ways in which there's continued conflict and understanding that better. In terms of this year, the Yiddish saying men tracht und Gott lacht, which is people plan and God laughs, is kind of a lot of the lesson of this year. Was we had a huge lineup of planned assemblies, and much of it got canceled, but we had lawyers working on the Charlottesville case who are going to come in and speak about how they're working on that case and how and how they're fighting for equity there. And we had someone coming in to talk about water and politics in the Middle East lined up. Again, a lot of this is going to be hopefully sometime in the future that we'll do this. So these are some of the ways in which our department has planned and contributed.
The Department of Sociology is actually extremely diverse in our faculty and our students. Our sociology is the study of society. Our course offerings, right, then are organically include topics that pertain to populations of diverse immigrant histories, racial ethnic communities, socioeconomic backgrounds, etc. But I think my role for this interview pertains not necessarily to the Department of Sociology, but to the Asian American Studies faculty working group that I'm a part of, that's supported generously by the HSS Dean, Dean Gould. And this working group has been meeting regularly since fall 2018. Brooklyn College does not currently have an active Asian American Studies agenda, save for an Asian Studies minor that doesn't capture the experiences of Asian America or the broader diaspora. And so the faculty working group has been able to offer some limited co-sponsoring, right? Limited programming through co-sponsorships. And so in spring of 2019, we convened a panel with colleagues across CUNY to discuss the role, place, support, or lack thereof for Asian American studies within CUNY broadly. Colleagues from Hunter, Baruch, Queens, BMCC sat on the panel, which drew in audience members from across CUNY and within the city in general, and it was a packed room. And then this past February, the working group, along with co-sponsorship from the HSS Dean's Office, Office of Diversity and Equity, Office of the President, some academic departments, brought to our campus Brooklyn College alumnus and filmmaker Conrad Adderer to screen his film on the internment of Japanese Americans and the resistance that took place specifically in one of the internment camps at Tule Lake. This event was actually held on the annual Day of Remembrance, which is February 19th, also drew a full standing room only audience. And the following day, we had a panel discussion with members of Suru for Solidarity, who spoke about their family members' experiences with internment and also the current work that they're doing, the collaboration on the protest and opposition to internment of immigrants at U.S. borders.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Well, Brooklyn College has a history of embracing and reflecting the ever-changing demographics of Brooklyn. And some of the ways that we have done that is through our programming, through curriculum, and also through establishing departments. So for example, Africana studies, Judaic studies, as well as Puerto Rican and Latino studies will be celebrating their 50th anniversary. And I think the longevity of these departments speak to their importance and need. So this question is for the chairs. How do you think diversity has changed since the inception of these departments? For example, in areas maybe around course development, student activism, etc. Professor Pérez y González, would you like to start?
Sure. So in the late 1960s, as you know, civil rights movements of various groups going on. In that midst is when a small group of Puerto Rican students at Brooklyn College, along with Panamanian students, Dominican students, African American students, progressive white students, gathered together and basically fought and championed along with other campuses and students and community folks across New York City to help found first institutes. So, Puerto Rican Studies Institute, the Afro-American Studies Institute in 1969, and then subsequently a year later, we both became departments, and then Judaic Studies also became a program in 1970, and in 71 became a department. So it was through struggle, effort, sacrifice, and a lot of heartache and hardship. But the departments were formed, and it opened up a whole new world for the students all across CUNY. So that's been very exciting. We started out as Department of Puerto Rican Studies in terms of focusing on the relationship between Puerto Rico, the United States. It's a commonwealth, a fancy word for colony, but please take our courses and you'll find out some more about that situation. And so we were Puerto Rican Studies because that was the majority of the people in New York City at the time. Fast forward a few decades, and in the 1990s, you had a large Dominican constituency. You had more Mexicans. You had Ecuadorians, Colombians, Peruvians. And so the department changed its name in 1998, including its curriculum, to Latino to expand and incorporate the other groups. We kept Puerto Rican in the title because of its unique situation with Puerto Rico, with the United States. So that's basically how we've evolved. And we also do the bilingual education piece with the School of Ed. So we have a lot of students and becoming New York City teachers. So we're really excited about that. And so those are the different changes we've seen throughout the decades.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Professor Brodsky, would you like to share some input also?
Sure. Yeah, Brooklyn College has seen a lot of change in the Jewish population, going even all the way back to 1930, right, when it was founded. My understanding is the population of Brooklyn College was largely Jewish, right, immigrant and children of immigrants, and that shifted a lot over the years. It's still, obviously, there's a very large Jewish population at Brooklyn College, but it's a much more diverse college overall than it was back then. And the Jewish population has become much more diverse. In 1971, when the department was founded, my understanding is that the vast majority of the Jewish students were Ashkenazi Jews. particularly more secular Ashkenazi Jews. That shifted tremendously. Now Syrian Jews make up an enormous percentage of our population, Jewish population, as do Jews of other, other Jews of Middle Eastern origin, be that Yemenite Jews. I'm not sure exactly all the makeup, but in our population, I mean, but former Iraqi Jews, etc. Also Bukharian Jews, Jews from Uzbekistan, is a very large population at Brooklyn College. So that's had a huge impact on us. I'll say for me personally, as someone who I teach also, part of my specialty is Syriac Christianity as well. I was pleasantly surprised to find that there's a large Syriac Christian population here, particularly from Kerala, India, right? The Malayali population. And I've had a strong connection with them as well. And interestingly, therefore, because I started offering a class on Introduction to Syriac Christianity that a number of them gravitated to take, they then ended up gravitating into some of our other classes, Introduction to Talmud, Midrash, courses and diversified. So our because we're Judaic studies, we're not the Jewish department or the department by and for Jews. We really have this wonderfully diverse student population as well that doesn't have to be Jewish, isn't Jewish, and is often just interested for any number of reasons in our courses, and that has really enriched our department. And I think that probably goes way back, but I think particularly now even more so with the diversity of the college, that's helped diversify the department as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And Professor Cumberbatch.
As Professor Pérez González said, Africana Studies was born out of struggle. The struggle included some student protests on campus, the takeover, I think, of the president's office, and some arrests of some students at their homes. So that is part of the history as well. We started off, I think, as the Department of Afro-American Studies and evolved to the Department of Africana Studies. But I think both in our personnel and in our curriculum, we represent the diversity of the Black experience, right? So we cover all areas of the African diaspora. We have courses in Africa, or on Africa, on the United States, and on the Caribbean in 3 major areas: history and politics, literature, culture and the arts, and society and the economy. And I think that we have also, I would say that our curriculum has evolved with the current trends in the field. So in the last couple of years, we've offered more classes in, say, performance studies, also classes that highlight the transnational nature of the Black experience that are much more comparative. And our events and programming also speak to that as well. So we have Professor Byam has organized the Race and Performance series, where she's brought in folks like Spike Lee and Lyd Nottage, sort of well-known, a well-known movie director and a well-known playwright who, represent the diversity of the Black experience as well.
All right, thank you so much. So let's close the conversation with our eyes focused on the future. And I want to ask this question to everyone. So looking ahead to next semester, what ways will your departments strive to create a sense of inclusion and raise diversity awareness? I'd like to start with Anthony Brown.
Can I defer to Professor Pond because she went last, unless she...
Sure, of course.
Happy to go first.
It gives me time to think.
So the working group is committed to not only bring, important programming as we've done to our campus, but to also represent the growing Asian American student body at Brooklyn College. It's been steadily increasing in the last few years, and to also educate the broader Brooklyn College community. So looking forward, Asian American studies, like Pearls, Africana studies, Judaic studies, is much about representation as it is an intellectual exercise. And so the working group aspires towards programming next year for sure. We haven't met yet, right, since everything kind of, uprooted everyone. But something that I've been thinking about is perhaps, programming around current sociopolitics, as we've seen a resurgence of this, quote, yellow peril, right? And also seeing kind of the limits of the model minority imaginary within this pandemic. And so it's timely to have events that surround kind of the sociopolitics that's happening. We're also working and hopeful to build curriculum that contribute to the breadth of experiences in varied social history at Brooklyn College that directly speaks to the diversity and inclusion of our communities.
Okay, thank you. And who would like to go next?
I'll go next. So we're going to continue our tradition of having the Possible Dream Encuentro. And so it's going to be our 15th annual one. So hopefully that'll happen in November. If not, we'll push it off. But it's going to focus on our 50th anniversary to celebrate all of the accomplishments, all of the achievements that we've had, and what we've done, and hopefully, our vision for the future as well. APRE is the Alliance for Puerto Rican Education and Empowerment. It's basically an alumni group with many of the founders of the department. They have come together to create a documentary for the 50th anniversary. And so they pulled together alumni from various parts of the nation, and including Puerto Rico. And so they interviewed them. So they're putting all of this together. So we're hoping to do that, show that for the spring in 2021. And also that semester, we're hoping to put on a course focused around West Side Story, a very famous movie from way back when. And it's going to be redone in December of 2020. Steven Spielberg, Tony Kushner, and Rita Moreno are the producers. So they're hoping to have that out by then, and we're hoping to bring in speakers to showcase the film, to study it sociologically, what was going on, arts and all of that. And our Brooklyn College connection to that is that Dr. Virginia Sanchez-Coral, the former chair of Pearls, served as the historical consultant on the movie. So we're hoping to get that going. And we always have an Empowering Our Future event for careers and graduate school, focusing on that, discussing that, encouraging our students around that. And so those are the ones we plan for. And then there's all the other ones we don't plan for, which come up, which are a lot of fun. Some are co-sponsored, some are just because someone's in town and we want to bring them here. So hopefully we'll be able to do that all together for the entire campus community, hopefully starting the fall.
Okay, thank you so much. And who's up next? Who would like to go?
I can go. So I we hope to have a number of things for next year. I know Professor Byam has been working on some ideas for her Race and Performance series, which will involve bringing in most likely a very well-known, but as of yet secret guest. Also, Professor Zinga Frazier, who is a member of my department, is the director of the Shirley Chisholm Project, and she will be celebrating Shirley Chisholm Day. Sorry. And also, we will be continuing our Voices for Change lecture series. And I think in academic year 2018-2019, we co-organized a Black Leadership Network event with the BLMI project, the Black and Latino Male Initiative, and we hope to return to that again in the 2020-2021 academic year in terms of hosting a leadership mentor event during Black History Month.
Okay, thank you so much. And next, Professor Brodsky, would you like to go?
Sure. Well, for starters, we definitely hope to finally get to have some of the talks that we had to postpone from this semester. I should add, I was remiss in forgetting one event that did actually take place this semester, right as lockdown was beginning to happen, which was, we only co-sponsored, but it was the Department of Modern Languages. It was a presentation and a display in the library on Shanghai and how it hosted the Jews who were fleeing the Holocaust. And it became one of the escape routes. And some of the survivors through Shanghai actually grew up knowing and hearing their stories as a child. So for me, it's very particularly moving that how the people that the people of Shanghai saved. Looking forward, though, we're not. Having learned our lesson from this semester, we're not exactly, we're holding off and seeing exactly how this pandemic plays out before we start planning too much. But what I would say is we definitely, in our curricula, we will be featuring, I'm sure, with our students how Jewish studies is, Jewish history is really a lesson in how to survive and even thrive under, in difficult circumstances. And how by prioritizing education and critical thinking, Jews really managed to do so, and that's a real lesson for us in this current situation. And I would say, even with that, Brooklyn College itself is a real lesson of that. That Brooklyn College was founded in 1930. Right in the heart of the Depression, and it helped transform the Jewish community here in New York City. Right, the Jews were really were largely the beneficiaries of that Depression prioritizing of education, and then turned around and really contributed back to the city and helped develop the city in that way. And those lessons, I think, should be learned today.
Okay, thank you so much. Anthony Brown?
Yes. One of the things I have to say that in terms of diversity, I feel like I am privileged to work at Brooklyn College, because Brooklyn College not only represents the diversity of this country, but the world. Having said that, as you all know, COVID-19, it's definitely changed the way that we've had to do programming. There are things that we've had to cancel. So as Professor Brodsky was saying, we hope to continue with those things whenever we go back to campus. However, we will always do some sort of programming to celebrate us and the great diversity of Brooklyn College. And perhaps we will do it virtually, as we're doing with this program, as part of Diversity Month. And not only is this Diversity Month, it is Disability Awareness Month. So the goal of the diversity and equity programs is to continue that program and to continue to work with all of you, because I've called on every one of you for some sort of programming needs, and you've all stepped up to the plate. So fortunately, unfortunately, I will probably call you again, and thank you.
Thank you
for this opportunity.
Thank you so much again for everyone for your participation today. And as we close, do you have any other words that you'd like to share, Anthony Brown?
Yes. In closing, I'd like to say happy 50th anniversary and happy almost 50th anniversary. And I'm just excited to be a part of this and to be a part of this community. And I hope we continue these positive dialogues and the positive programming and the inclusivity that you represent on this panel, because that is the best that we in terms of diversity is among the best in the country here at Brooklyn College. So let's continue to do great things.